Thunder, roaring, violence, feeling, death, screaming, life, breathing, light, blinding, thunder, roaring, spiral, dancing, stars, twisting. Last time, things got a little topsy-turvy. Some of you died in a firefight, some of you more gloriously than others. And then Hestia backed the SUV over the security guard and absolutely annihilated him. He got hit by the trunk. There was a loud crack as the open trunk hit him right in the neck, and then a loud thump as the vehicle rolled over him. While High Tide just kind of wandered off into the woods. Hestia was given a bit of harsh guidance from Delta Green that she's a real agent now, and that Agent High Tide may be a threat. Hestia should bring him in one way or another. So she complied, and High Tide was cooperative. But as you flew away from the scene in a helicopter after being picked up, the world ended. Tentacles breached through a tear in the sky over the dome. Shadows danced, and you could hear that screaming, roaring thunder, that music that was somehow nonsensical but somehow made all too much sense. And then you awoke once again at the exact moment that Dr. Takagawa woke up from his comatose state. High Tide and Hestia were in the room with him, while Hunter and Hallow were dealing with D out in the computer lab. Very quickly, more bodies hit the floor. Now, Dr. Chang and Dr. Black have both been killed, and their bodies brought out behind the building, as the four of you have met up together and discussed what you're going to do next. And your final thought in the scene we find you entering here was that you would head to the atrium to see this technology for yourselves, to try and confront or cut off whatever the source of this whole set of nonsense is. And so that's where we find you. The atrium, as a reminder, is a small building connected by some large metal tubes to three other buildings. There's a splitter that it connects to, and then off of the splitter there are more metal tubes that connect to two much smaller buildings, the terminals. But all of these things are, at least the size of like a small vehicle, like maybe an SUV or something could fit inside each of them. The atrium is the largest by far, but not a massive building by any means. Maybe a dozen feet on each side. There is a locked door going to the inside here, and the other buildings, you'd heard there were bits of protocol for even entering them, where you needed to set up a clean room around them and all sorts of other things. You haven't tried to go into the other stations yet. But here you are in front of the atrium. What do you do?
Okay, so
I can describe it a little bit
messing
more
with
as well. The atrium door does appear to have an electronic lock on it this time, with like a key swipe, card swipe.
does it have like a number pad on it too, or is it just a key swipe?
Just a card swipe. Yeah.
Hala will jog back to where he stashed the bodies and shuffle through them, looking for a card.
You pretty quickly find an identification card on Dr. Black, Dr. Philip Black. So you just take his, and there's a little bit of blood on the corner as he's, you like snapped his neck, I think, but he has started to sort of bleed out of his mouth, and that got onto his collar and onto his badge. You take that, you bring it back, bloodstained badge, add it to your inventory, and yay, it appears to work as you tap it against the door. There's a green light and the sound of a loud click as the door lock disengages.
All right, this is the main atrium door, the one that Hestia had previously gone inside and messed with things in.
That's correct. Yep.
cautiously open the door.
It looks inside very similar to how it did before. There's a structure in the middle, sort of almost like a table, but it's built into the construction of the building itself, just a raised area for the main mechanism to sit on. That main mechanism is just a pile of technology. You can't tell without opening it up, but it has a bunch of panels on the outside that have covered it and are keeping it sealed. So it looks like just a big industrial machine, very fancy scientific equipment. But you can see places where you can unlatch it, disengage some seals and open it up for maintenance. This appears also to be electronically locked. The floor is very smooth, but this place is not quite as much of a clean room as the other buildings are. And instead, it just has a tile floor, and then the walls have lots of wiring coming from the device clearly in the middle and patching in different panels around the room that look like you can kind of see through the panels, and behind the panels the wires kind of go down and into the floor, probably leading through those underground channels you saw that pop back up in the computer lab on the main lab building. Connected from the device in the middle is the same metal pipe you saw on the outside that leads into the building. So that pipe just kind of travels through the wall of the building and outside to connect to one of the other buildings. And that's what's in here.
I will point at the panel and say, last time I just, messed with everything in here, but I didn't know what I did or what it does.
We can always try doing that again, but I'd also like to see if there's anything else that stands out in here as perhaps critical to operation. Maybe we can break that too.
Does Hunter have a memory of what he could engage with in here to stop the big eruption of the entity from occurring again?
Hunter knows that there are 5 things in this room that are bringing the entity closer. 4 of them are living.
What's the 5th one?
The apparatus, yeah, the scientific instrument in the middle.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you do think, I mean, even without Hunter's strange knowledge here, the scientists have previously talked to you all about how these buildings need clean rooms set up around them, these portable clean rooms you saw in the storage room, and a significant amount of time in preparation before anyone can even enter the sealed off areas. Like the structure in the middle would be considered one of those sealed off areas. So you would imagine they're pretty delicate, and they won't take much to damage them or make them at least non-operational for the meantime. If you want to really wreck them, you might need to take some heavy machinery to them, or explosives or weapons, something. But at least shutting them down should be as easy as, or disrupting their function should be as easy as just opening them up and letting some dust inside, right?
All right, Hunter just wants to open up a panel and empty his handgun into it.
Okay. Halo probably swipes the key card on the panel. There's a green light. The panel clicks open as Hunter gestures for that, and you just pow, 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 just shooting into the machine. The bullets ricocheting inside, sparks flying as quite a lot of power that's coursing through this place. Occasionally, like a line gets cut somewhere, and something forms a new connection where it shouldn't, where a piece of metal crosses a few things. All these things start happening, and very quickly an electrical fire starts in the wires around the outside of this place. Some alarms start going off. There's smoke.
Get to their buildings. Maybe we can disrupt them too.
It doesn't matter, but we'll do it if that's what you want.
Is there
I'm out of bullets,
anything
though.
that does matter?
No.
Well, if the other things bringing this event closer is us. Well, I mean,
What
we
if
were all alive at
It
the end of the
is.
last. We still had some of us alive at the end of the last one.
So what if we get the fire going in each room and then stay? What then?
It doesn't matter. There's infinite other possibilities where things will happen differently, or things will happen the same. Whatever we do here doesn't matter.
So how do we make it matter then?
You don't.
If we all die with this song or whatever it is in our heads, we have to make sure that none of the scientists still have it, because they can still herald it.
If that's what you want to do, then that's what we'll do.
All right, well, these alarms are going off. We need to be ready for those security guards and not in the mood to get shot again.
And how do you want to do that? I wave my empty gun in front of me. I don't know that I can be of much more help in that regard.
I hand him Hestia's extra pistol that Hallow still has.
There you go.
Well, there's that.
Here you go. We'll try to take one down, take their gun, and take the other one down when they come running. The alarm's here.
All right.
Well, let's get back to the main building first, then. If we see any more scientists, try to take them down quietly.
What
We
about
don't need to have the guards charging us again.
Okay, and the extra room, should we try and get fires going there too?
If that's your prerogative. I'm going hunting. Come on, Hunter.
I follow.
High Tide.
Yes.
You currently have the lowest sanity who is still sane, I believe.
Yes. 11.
Can you roll me a sanity test, please?
Yes.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Oh boy.
Critical failure. You're only going to lose 1 point of sanity for this. But I think perhaps one of the reasons High Tide tuned out during that conversation just a little bit is you were feeling something at that moment. You're feeling something slipping away as the fire burns around you, as this machine was being destroyed by Hunter, and as everyone was talking about this, it was almost like a weight was sliding off of your consciousness. It almost felt like a physical weight has been lifted, but you recognize it as just like a stress that you didn't realize was there, was pulled away from you. Maybe that's a good thing. Or maybe you're finally just going insane. You're not sure.
And that happened when... Was it all of the machines or just one of them was destroyed?
Just this one.
I'm
As
gonna
soon
go
as Hunter
looking
started
for more
firing.
machines.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like
And
what
start ripping wires.
yeah, so they're currently on fire, but you can probably do a little more damage, yeah. You start
Wait, I
ripping
thought-
things and sorry.
I thought you said only one of them was on fire.
So
Yeah,
the main
so-
atrium building is, but there are 3 other buildings technically connected to it.
I'll go to one of those buildings.
Okay. So yeah, you leave the room with everyone else then, as you all try to head to the other buildings and start some fires. And as you leave, you hear a voice shout at you. Put your weapons down! Get on the ground right now! Hands over your head!
This fucking shit again.
A security guard leaning around the corner of the building with a rifle trained on your location.
I shoot him.
Okay.
As Hunter starts to take that shot, Hallow will be sprinting for some measure of cover, closer to that guard.
Okay. We're gonna enter initiative then. As I am going to pick on some music. Hunter, go ahead and take your shot. This will be. You know what? It's not going to be a negative on your roll, but I'm going to give him some cover from the wall, so he's going to have a few extra points of armor. Okay, so that is a success. So perhaps you take the shot at him, or you pull the trigger a few times, and one of your shots lands, but not the full burst you'd usually get if you were, just repeatedly shooting a target out in the open. But you like clip his shoulder a bit, and he tucks back behind the wall. Go ahead and roll damage for your firearm.
Alright, I have a handgun, and I don't think I have the damage on my sheet. I am sorry.
It's a D10 handgun.
Alright. Goodness.
Okay. Pretty darn good. So maybe you got a little closer to center of mass than the shoulder. Not like a grazing blow of the shoulder, but like, actually pretty solidly like above the armpit or something, and they just groan and duck behind the wall. As even with the little bit of cover they had there, that was a pretty serious blow.
If Hal can get close enough, he's just going to immediately round that corner then and just go for a full body tackle on the security guard.
Okay. So you are running in, but you have pretty low initiative. I'm going to give High Tide a chance to act here real quick. You have the highest initiative out of everybody. And then the guard will go.
I mean, at this point, I'm not really caring about combat. I just want the relief feeling of destroying another computer.
Sure, absolutely. So you're heading to another room. So you wander off in that direction, trusting your companions to take care of this other threat. So High Tide's full turn will be getting to one of the terminal buildings.
I don't know if trusting my companions is better, but more along the lines of not caring.
That makes sense. That is not something that High Tide cares about at this moment. That's perfectly... I'm not going to say perfectly reasonable, but it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so the guard is going to go next. He was aiming, so he's going to take a firearms check at plus 20% since he got a slight drop on you, even though you took the initiative with a quick draw and fire. That is a failure, though. Maybe the pain of the bullet made it too hard for him to get a good shot here, and he just has to duck behind cover. His shots just go wide. He does pull the trigger, and a few shots just kind of hit the ground next to Hallow as he charges. But Hallow, you get to that corner, but it's going to take you your full turn to kind of get there. And do you want to just like take cover behind that corner kind of deal, or what's your plan? Get close.
My plan is to try to tackle the security guard and essentially restrain him, prevent him from being able to shoot again.
Okay. So that'll have to be a next turn thing, but if he tries to shoot at you, you could do like a fight back or something like that, which will bring your turn earlier.
Yeah.
So we'll say you get there and you're ready to like tackle him if he tries to shoot you or whatever. Hestia, do you have any specific action in mind here as the bullets ring out around you?
To the other of the two smaller buildings, whichever one High Tide didn't go to.
Okay, perfect. So you two split off towards some of the other buildings, and it will be back around to Hunter's turn.
Alright, so the guy is behind the corner again.
Yeah.
From my perspective, am I able to see how the altercation went after I fired the shot?
So you fired the shot, and you definitely landed at least one shot, and Hallow is in a position to tackle him, but has not yet tackled him. Basically waiting for the security guard to peek around the corner, and then Hallow will tackle, grab him,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
I'm gonna just approach with my gun pointed at where he was and say, if you do not run, I am going to kill you. And then just look for him to shoot him.
All right, I will give you an aim bonus of 20% on your next firearm shot, unless you do something else.
Okay.
Okay, then it is the guard's turn. going to shout back, "This could all be much easier if you just put your weapons down, stop shooting," and then slowly inch around the corner to look back out at where Hunter was, and that's the moment. Hallow, you can jump into action here if you want to, since you're kind of waiting for the trigger.
Yes. He's kind of waiting there and goes for the tackle on him.
All right. So unarmed combat, he's also going to roll. He also got a success, but your success was higher than his success, so you succeed overall. So you're both pretty strong at this, and he's clearly trained in close quarters combat, but you are also, and you managed to just kind of wrestle the gun pointing away from you and push him to the ground. He's either got to like give up the gun to get better leverage on you or something. You got the upper hand here. You've got him on the ground. He's wearing a lot of heavy gear. Anything else besides just like getting him down and restraining him? Is that kind of your whole turn, or I guess
getting him down, kind of restraining him and kicking the gun out of his range, essentially.
Okay, so yeah, you get the gun, you just wrestle it from him, and as you restrain him, you just kind of kick the gun out of the way. It skitters into the grass a little bit, and then it is High Tide and Hestia's turns. We'll say you're shared at the moment. You two each get to one of these terminal buildings at the same time. Both of them appear to be locked doors, much like the other one is. So you're going to need a key to get in or something of that nature, or you could try to break the doors open. They look pretty sturdy. If you got guns, you could try to shoot locks, like whatever your plans are.
Hallow would have also passed on the key card to one of them before heading out.
Okay, yeah, as you were going to run, just toss it at somebody.
Yeah.
Who wants to roll to see who has the key card?
I most likely would not have grabbed it because I'm just kind of in a daze going towards the stress relief. So once I get to a door that's locked, I'm going to attempt to shoot the lock.
Okay, so
All
Hestia has the key then.
I'm gonna use the key because I don't have a firearm.
All right. The camera sees a split shot of a key going over a lock and then a gun pointed at a lock. And go ahead and roll me. I'll say firearms at minus 20% High Tide, since this is not like a terribly easy, intended use for the firearm skill. And we'll see what you get. With the minus 20%, that is still a success. So just barely, exactly on the dot, right?
I must get into this door.
Yeah, exactly on the dot with a 19 out of 19. You have this uncanny sense right now. You need to release this weight. And so you just walk up to the door and hardly, without even thinking, just pull the gun out and fire exactly where you need to fire through like a deadbolt. And the door just kind of swings like slightly open, and you're able to pull it the rest of the way very easily. Hestia slides the key over the lock. You both get the doors open. And as you do so, there's almost like a mild a mild sound of like gas escaping, if you can even hear it between all these gunshots. As it appears these rooms were like slightly pressurized, and as you open these doors, some of the gas just escaped. It doesn't smell like anything, but something was in there. Could just be compressed air. You're not entirely sure, but and as you open them, you see this appears to be very small, cramped areas that are meant for like maintenance. There's not really many places to stand. You kind of have to like shift machinery out of the way and tuck yourself in like through what are almost like little struggling to think of the word, but they're just little maintenance access hatches and things you can go through. There's not like actual doorways to walk through and things like that. But there is plenty of machinery for you to fuck up in here. Lots of wires going around, lots of things that look like glass panels and mirrors, and things on motors that are angling things around to reflect lasers at different angles. Plenty of very fragile things for you to just start destroying. And I'll say it doesn't take your whole turn to open these doors. You know what? Actually, I'll give Hestia. No, it did not take her turn to open the door because you had the key. High Tide, I think it took your turn to shoot open the lock. So Hestia, what do you want to do?
I'm going to grab the most like baseball, softball size piece of machinery that I can, and I'm going to hurl it with everything I have at the densest bit of wires in the hope of doing something kind of like the bullet did.
Okay, yeah, you just grab something that you can tear off a machine and chuck it, and as you do, yes, some things connect together that were not meant to connect together. Electricity, very high voltage electricity, arcs across several of the wires. Fires get started. There's this loud crackling sound you hear and a flash of light, and then you smell this intense burning electric smoke. And then we're going to go back to Hunter. The guard used his turn fighting back against Hallow, so you're up again. I'll say at this point you've got a shot, but Hallow is wrestling the guy. So it'd be an extremely risky shot.
I'm gonna get into point blank range. I'm gonna show him that the gun is right in front of his face and tell him to stop moving. If he does, I'm gonna pull the trigger.
Okay, once you get close enough, then you got the weapon trained on him. Well, he's still trying to fight back against Hallow. He just freezes and just stops resisting Hallow, and Hallow's able to wrestle him into an easier position. Which I guess we mentioned restrained before, but I think this technically Hallow, you could take this turn to take him from grappled into restrained mechanically, if that is what you wish.
Yes, I will temporarily restrain him for now.
Okay, so maybe you like get his arms around behind his back or something, get him into like a real locked hold, and you've got him there. And he just seems to just go kind of silent. He's just breathing heavily into the ground. But Hunter, you notice, though he is complying, there's a look of defiance in his face still. Like he doesn't think he's completely out of luck here, and he hates both of your guts right now. That's for sure. So that's what's happening over here. And
as Hallow finishes restraining him, he'll also growl into his ear, "I already know that you're gonna kill all the researchers when they're done here. Why shouldn't we kill you now?"
he just stays still, just grits his teeth at that little bit. Seems to be there's a response to him when you say like, "Yeah, we already know you're gonna kill everybody here." But so his eyes widen a little bit, but he again just grits his teeth, doesn't say anything. But at that moment, you do hear the squeal of tires and the loud sound of an engine of a car just driving recklessly up the path from the outer gate towards the inner lab area here of the dome. So the other security guard appears to be on their way rapidly.
If there's any more time on Hunter's turn while this is happening, Hal will just look up at him and nod as a signal to just kill this guard so we can move on to the next.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull the trigger.
Okay. Go ahead, yeah, give me that roll with the plus 20% just to see if there's the super unlucky chance that you get a crit failure. Okay, excellent. So, yep, easy enough shot at this range. He doesn't get to pull any shenanigans of, just barely shrugging Hallow in the way or anything like that. You just execute him. Back to High Tide with the highest initiative. Are you also just destroying machinery, ripping and tearing? Are you firing your gun into the room? What are you doing?
Ripping and tearing.
Right, holster the gun, you start just ripping wires, pulling things, throwing things around. I'm going to say you're just able to take your turn destroying things, much like Hestia did, and I don't need a roll for it. You very quickly start an electrical fire. You very clearly ruined this machinery. But you notice, as you do so, and as you exit your building and see that Hestia's is on fire, you don't feel that release, that weight being lifted like you did before. This feels like it was probably a good thing to do, but it doesn't seem to have the same effect for whatever reason.
Most likely, I would have a frustrated, like, in response.
You're now more conscious of this weight on you, this psychological weight. inability to get rid of it. Back to Hunter's turn then. Hunter,
Did Hestia
you
go?
heard. Good point, Hestia. You have a turn now. That's true. Your machine is destroyed, and you do have a turn. What would you like to use on?
If I can, I'm gonna jog over to High Tide and say, if you can shoot that gas tank, I think that should take care of the main building.
Is a pistol able to reach?
I mean, you probably have to get closer, but
yeah, you don't have to necessarily. It would be
Hestia
next turn.
doesn't have a
anyways.
weapon, so she can't do it herself.
Yeah, so that would be a next turn thing. So Hestia just uses her turn to get to High Tide and communicate that. You guys can do with that whatever you want with that information in the next round. So Hunter, you have just barely a little bit more initiative than Hallow here, as this guard's vehicle screeches into the parking lot. They haven't exited the vehicle yet, but they're just rapidly approaching, and they kind of turned the vehicle, drifted it very slightly as they entered, so that they can get the driver's side door facing away from you to exit that side of the vehicle. But again, they haven't quite dropped themselves out of the vehicle yet. They're just in the process of getting out. What are you doing?
I'm going to drop to my stomach with the gun aimed to take a shot as soon as I see a head or a body.
Alright, so you'll get an aim bonus for the next shot. Hello, you have
Hallow's
a dead
doing
body.
similar.
Yes.
Yeah, Hallow's doing similar, but with that guard's rifle.
Okay, so you're going to roll over to where you kick the rifle, get on the ground, and you will also get an aim bonus. High Tide, it's your turn. Hestia has given you a suggestion. You can choose to follow it if you want, but you can do whatever you want.
There's still one more building to be destroyed, right?
Yeah, there was like a splitter between the terminals.
Alright, I'm gonna go try to get the stress relief there.
Okay. So you go to that building, and I'll say, I won't make you roll firearms for this one again. You already we'll carry over the roll from last time. You know where to shoot. You magically, somehow, with your very low sanity, know exactly where to place a bullet, even though that shouldn't be possible. And somehow, you open this lock with a bullet, open the door, and on your next turn, you'll be able to start tearing things out. It's the guard's turn now. The guard is going to get out of the vehicle and duck around to the side. What have you done? I heard shooting! Drop your weapons now! They do not peek out from the vehicle, but they're clearly just taking cover behind it, shouting at you.
Hallow will just shout back, yeah, the last one said that too.
You just hear...
Yeah.
a string
If you
of
don't want to
curses.
die, maybe you should just come out with your hands up. There's two of us and one of you.
Ooh. I
Make
feel
sure
like this
both
calls
there's
for...
only one of them.
I feel like this calls for like a persuade check or something, to try and sort of convince him to stand down.
No, I've got persuade. I'm very good at
go for it.
persuasion.
The persuade sounds fine to me. So you just hear like, fuck, shit. You see a weapon poke out from around the side of the vehicle, not aimed towards you, but just like one hand holding it out as he drops it to the side of the vehicle, and then two hands stick up over the top of the hood of the car, and he slowly rises. Punter,
It's a
do you take the
smart
shot?
move.
I take the shot.
Okay. Roll firearms. as he stands up over the hood of the car slowly, facing you all.
Oh.
With a cold eye, Hunter just boom, and Hallow, you see just a bullet hole appear directly in this guy's forehead, and his head just snaps back and then forward, and he just collapses to the floor.
He just kind of grunts like, well, all right.
I'm just gonna get up and go get the guy's gun without saying anything.
Hey, it's an upgrade, right?
Yeah.
All right.
If Hala wasn't adapted to violence and already killing lots of people here, he probably would have said something about killing the guy who just surrendered.
Indeed.
Yeah, that would be a very fair, sane, and well-adjusted thing to do. That's none of us.
Well, I'm sane-ish, but not well-adjusted anymore.
Hestia, you see High Tide ignore your suggestion, so you cast your gaze back towards the main building, trying to think if there's some way you can enact your plan. But as you do, you see one of the back doors to the building burst open as a very frantic researcher, Dr. Campbell, with her hair just like flowing behind her just crazily as she's clearly been like half pulling her hair out, rushes out of the back, and she's screaming and pointing fingers and waving her hands, and she's saying, "What are you doing? My life's work! No, my research is all gone! Stop!" And she's just running towards you in this clearly panicked, frenzied state.
How far away are Hunter and Hallow?
You could get there in a turn. It would take your whole turn to sprint over there, but you could.
I'm gonna try and get their attention. So
Are we facing away from you?
Are you shouting?
I think we were facing away from the 3 atrium buildings.
Yeah.
okay.
There's
so
probably a
I
lot of
will-
ringing in our ears from gunshots also.
I will skirt over so that I don't come up like directly behind you guys, and gesture towards her.
Hello just rotates around with the rifle and points it at her.
You guys probably hear
These
her
poor
screaming
people.
as well. This researcher, who's probably closer to you guys than she was to Hestia at this point. So Hestia just kind of runs over towards you all, and as you do so, Hestia, it actually appears Dr. Campbell runs past you towards the atrium and these other buildings where High Tide is at the moment. She appears far more concerned with the buildings than with you.
Can I take the opportunity to like try and trip her?
You can, but you won't get to the others if you do so. You'd be near her when your turn ends.
Never mind. I'm gonna stay out of the way.
Okay, so you deciding to paint her as a target to get yourself far away from her. So you spend your whole turn essentially taking like a sprint action, right, to get over to the others. And as you get behind the firing line, Hallow and Hunter both spin their weapons around. Hunter has slightly higher initiative, so actually, I'm sorry. High Tide, you have the highest initiative here. It's a new round. You are starting to rip and tear at machinery, I'm assuming?
Do I notice her running towards me?
Yeah,
now?
you definitely hear her screaming behind you. You'd recognize by her voice who she is. And she's
Oh yeah,
rapidly approaching.
I still rip and tear.
Okay, so you maybe take a quick glance over your shoulder, see she's coming, but you don't care. That's far from your mind right now. You start
Because
just...
I have a plan if she does end up.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, you just start pulling on bits of machinery, ripping away these very delicate instruments, throwing them at other things. The fire quickly starts. Weight still has not dropped. Now, Hunter has the slightly higher initiative. What do you guys want to do upon seeing this researcher rush behind Hestia towards the outer buildings?
Well,
Is Hestia
Hunter's a little
gonna get out of the way?
Hestia's out of the way.
Yeah, Hestia's
Okay,
out.
then I'm taking the shot.
Okay, firearms. I think this time you don't get a name bonus. We have a big gun. That is a success.
And a big firearm score.
This is a lethality rating, so just roll a d100. And I think it's like a 20% on a rifle. So 9 points of damage. Because you failed the lethality check, but you'd add the die together then. This is a... that is a one-shot kill on this researcher. So, what is it, Hunter? Let's describe where you shoot her to kill her.
At the base of the skull.
Base of the skull. Wow, okay. Very precise shot, just boom, base of the skull, she goes down. Instantly, there's just a spray of blood. Screaming stops.
It wasn't where Hunter was aiming for, but I'm sure it looked harrowingly impressive to anybody looking on.
And there is a sudden silence. There's not silence. There's no more gunfire. There's no more screaming. There are still alarms blaring. These klaxons just going off about to to warn everyone that there is something very wrong with the instruments, that a fire has started, that the instruments are in no state to be used, they need to be shut off immediately. There's endless warning signs going off. As you all just sit in this.
Can either of you... Oh, I was going to ask the two of them. Can either of you shoot the gas tank in the main building to get that going?
Hallow just turns his gun over to it and shoots where he remembers seeing, I think, Dr. Black shoot it the first time.
Yeah, I think so. And there's Dr. Black and Dr. Xiang's body.
Zhangfei, yeah.
Jingfei Xiang is there, like, underneath the gas tank, basically.
Yeah.
Aww.
So he just turns around and just shoots the gas tank again.
All right. So gas starts to pour out of the tank.
Wait. Does the death of a researcher provide any relief for High Tide?
Good point. It does. Thank you for the reminder. So High Tide, yes, upon the death of a researcher, even though you finished tearing away at the machine, that provided no relief, but you heard a gunshot as you turned around and you saw Dr. Campbell get basically headshot directly in front of you, and the instant that shot rang out, you felt that weight get lifted just a little more.
And there are more researchers inside.
Yes.
Absolutely.
After shooting the tank, Hallow's going to go inside and continue hunting like he was planning on doing.
All right.
The gunfire impact with the tank create enough heat to ignite it?
You know what? I was going with realism because I don't think it would, but because
Mythbusters tested it.
I was pretty sure Mythbusters tested it. But movie logic says yes, and you know what? If Delta Green isn't like a movie, so yes, it ignites it. We'll just say that
tomorrow.
We don't have to follow movie logic.
I like it. I was originally going to go with the realism, but I think, you know what, the movie logic makes more sense for Delta Green. So somehow just a spare spark or something happens to catch the gasoline on fire. And it's not an explosion because it's not like aerosol gasoline, but the fumes do ignite and it just starts a fire in general. There's going to be quite a lot of fuel here, so it's going to burn for quite a long time. So the bodies start to get burned underneath it. The walls start to ignite from the heat of the flames lapping against them. So the fire has begun. The building is starting to burn down, although the fire hasn't made its way inside yet, so it's going to take some time. What do you all do?
Is that also the generator for the building?
It is the emergency generator, yeah.
I was going to say that would be some fun movie stuff if the power was out as we go hunting.
Yeah, Hunter is also going to go hunting completely emotionlessly.
All right.
I tied as well.
I think let's montage this.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to get into the nitty-gritty details. We see a scene of each of you, and before I establish this, Hestia, what are you doing What are you doing during this time? You don't have a weapon on you? Are you waiting outside? Are you helping find targets? Are you part of this hunting, or what are you doing?
I'm gonna keep an eye out for any other guards. I can't remember how many of them there were, or if there were any attached to like the main building. So
Okay.
since none of them seem to be aware of danger right now, I'm gonna keep an eye out for more targets.
And I have the perfect way to describe this. We see a montage scene of Hallow, High Tide, and Hunter, well, doing what Hunter does best, hunting through the darkness here. As one of you enters the building, and maybe High Tide has this thought that you pass by a fuse box and you just start turning off the power, and then you get to hunting inside. And you very dramatically move through the darkness, flashlights out. The Hallow enter the room where the storage room on the other side, and you find one of the engineers here is like scrambled up inside one of the portable clean room tents as you just hear breathing inside of it, and you tear away one of the curtains, and he's standing there right there, hands up, like blinded by the light a little bit. We cut away from that scene. High Tide, we see you enter the room where Dr. Takagawa was on the bed, or on the couch. He's still there, he's breathing heavily, and we just see you take a few steps up close to him and lift your weapon up. We cut away from that scene. Hunter, we see you sneaking through the kitchen, looking around corners, clearing your angles, making sure everything makes sense here. Then, from a direction you already cleared, we see the camera sees somebody materialize from the darkness. A researcher who is clearly crazy, who has a weapon of her own in her hand, and she points it at you, and we cut away from that scene. See from the outside, Hestia watching the front gate, and we just hear 3 gunshots from inside the building. That's where we're going to pick it up from next week.
10 minutes early, big things happening.
Big things happening.
This is a